Hey everyone! Mike Tyson, the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history, a man once feared, worshipped, and mythologized as the very embodiment of raw power, has lived a life that reads like a Shakespearean tragedy, filled with unimaginable highs and devastating lows. A story not just about the rise and fall of a fighter, but about the pain of a boy who never stood a chance against the world's brutality. Because behind the roar of the crowds, behind the knockouts that shook the sports world, there was always a broken child, lost, angry, desperate to be loved, a child who never truly healed. To understand the tragedy of Mike Tyson, we have to begin in the hell he came from. Born in 1966 in Brooklyn's Brownsville neighborhood, one of the toughest places in America at the time, Tyson grew up surrounded by poverty, violence, and neglect. His father abandoned the family early, leaving his mother Lorna to raise him and his siblings alone. Tyson was small, quiet, and painfully shy, an easy target for bullies. By age 10, he was fighting back, not out of courage, but survival. His first punch wasn't thrown in a ring, but in the streets, defending himself from older kids who mocked his lisp and weight. That anger became his armor, and by the time he was a teenager, Tyson had already been arrested over 30 times. His future seemed sealed, another lost kid swallowed by the streets. But fate intervened in the form of a legendary boxing trainer named Cus D'Amato. When Tyson was sent to a reform school in upstate New York, a counselor recognized his natural fighting ability and introduced him to Cus, who instantly saw greatness in the boy. Cus didn't just train Mike, he saved him. For the first time in his life, Tyson had a father figure, someone who believed in him, disciplined him, molded him into a weapon. Under Cus's guidance, Tyson transformed from a lost boy into a prodigy. Cus taught him not only technique but philosophy, the psychology of intimidation, the art of fear. He told Tyson he would be the youngest heavyweight champion in history. And he was right. But when Cus died in 1985, just as Mike's career was beginning, something inside Tyson broke. The one man who gave him stability was gone, and without him, Tyson was left adrift in a world that saw him not as a human being, but as a commodity. He was barely 20 when he captured the heavyweight title in 1986, and overnight, he became a global phenomenon, the baddest man on the planet. He destroyed opponents in seconds, his style a terrifying mix of speed, precision, and animal aggression. But the more successful he became, the more chaos followed. The young man who'd once needed structure now found himself surrounded by predators, managers, promoters, hangers-on, all eager to feed off his fame. Without Cus, there was no one to protect him. His relationship with promoter Don King would become one of the most toxic alliances in sports history, draining Tyson of millions and steering him towards self-destruction. Then came the women, the parties, the drugs, and the pain he could never express. Tyson married actress Robin Givens in 1988, a union that quickly dissolved into scandal, accusations of abuse, and tabloid frenzy. Tyson's mental health unraveled under the pressure. He was no longer the disciplined fighter Cus had built. He was a storm. Violent, impulsive, emotionally broken. And then, in 1992, the storm consumed him. Tyson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 6 years in prison, serving 3. To this day, he maintains his innocence. But regardless of where one stands, the conviction marked the beginning of his downfall. Not just professionally, but spiritually. Prison stripped away the myth, leaving only the man, angry, ashamed, lost again. But even behind bars, Tyson remained a spectacle. When he was released in 1995, the world still wanted the monster, not the man. He returned to boxing, and though he recaptured the heavyweight title, it was clear he was no longer the same. His eyes were empty. The discipline was gone. In 1997, The infamous fight with Evander Holyfield, the night Tyson bit off a piece of his opponent's ear, became the ultimate symbol of his collapse. It wasn't just an act of madness, it was a cry for help, a moment of pure psychological breakdown broadcast to the world. Tyson was banned, ridiculed, and labelled a disgrace. But beneath the headlines was a man who had been collapsing for years, his mental health untreated, his trauma unresolved. What few realised at the time was that Mike Tyson was suffering from depression, from addiction, from years of suppressed grief, his mentor, his freedom, his identity. And he had no tools to heal. The tragedy deepened as financial ruin followed. Don King allegedly siphoned tens of millions from his fortune. By the early 2000s, Tyson was bankrupt, fighting for survival again, not in the ring, but in life. He fell into drug abuse, lost friends, and nearly lost his will to live. In interviews, Tyson later admitted that there were nights he wanted it all to end, that he'd been living in hell since childhood. But somehow, amid all that darkness, a fragile redemption began to take shape. Tyson slowly started confronting his past, getting therapy, finding spirituality through Islam, and speaking openly about his pain. Yet, even as he found peace, tragedy continued to haunt him. In 2009, his 4-year-old daughter, Exodus, died in a horrific household accident. The loss shattered him. Tyson later said that it was the lowest point of his life, that no championship, no fame, no money could ever fill that void. He blamed himself, and for years he carried that guilt like a cross. The world had always seen Mike Tyson as a beast, but that moment revealed the man, a father broken beyond repair. Since then, Tyson has spent years rebuilding himself piece by piece. He's reinvented his image through podcasts, acting, and even a return to exhibition boxing. But beneath it all, there's still a haunting sadness in his voice. The voice of someone who's seen too much, done too much, and lost too much. Today, Tyson speaks openly about his struggles with addiction, his mental health, and the demons that never truly leave. He admits that fame was never what he wanted. He just wanted love. He's found some measure of peace now, living quietly with his family, raising pigeons, practicing mindfulness, but the scars remain. The tragedy of Mike Tyson isn't that he fell, it's that the world never let him be human. From the moment he threw his first punch, he was forced to play the role of a monster, the perfect villain in the public's imagination. And in becoming that, he lost himself. His life is a mirror of America's contradictions. How it glorifies violence, profits from pain, and then abandons the very people it creates. Thanks for watching.